What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. So I want to talk about 8 things that are, I think I'm a little shifty here, that are wrong with nootropic rhetoric. The nootropic rhetoric is described as what people commonly say about nootropics, whether it's related to cycling, doses, certain compounds, what they're supposed to do, etc. And I think it's important to clear this up because when people follow common nootropic rhetoric, they get less than superior results. And it really causes a bunch of problems. It can get people to stop fussing with stacks because like the rhetoric tells them that's the recommended dose, but really they've got to microdose it and that's just better for their brain. Lots of stuff to get into. In the meantime, guys, the t-shirts are coming out, well, today's Wednesday, Friday. So they'll be here at the Cortex Labs office on Friday, Fueled by Nootropics t-shirts. They are sick, they are black, they look just like that, and they are good quality material. Perfect time for spring for those of you that are in the States or wherever else it's spring. I'll let you guys know via the email list and videos when they are available to ship, $24.99 a piece. We've got 100 medium and 100 large, so look out for that. Check out the Cortex Labs gaming channel, go subscribe to it, Modern Warfare All Day. Find that on YouTube. And then this broadcast is brought to you by a bunch of products. Number 1, the Cortex Nootropic Stack. That's our stack. Nootropic Stacks for the business professional. Digital guide for business people filled with stacks for business productivity. The 6-month intensive Nootropics consulting package. The 3.5-month intensive Nootropics consulting package. You got to get on those if you're thinking about doing them. They're almost booked. And of course, products like Nootropics Ground Zero, which is designed for people that are new to nootropics to learn the ropes and get some good stacks. And things like the Nootropics Masterclass, which is an advanced course on nootropics taking you to the 6-year mark. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com and be aware of the t-shirts coming out soon. Okay, so yeah, like nootropic rhetoric, right? It's really just the things that people say about nootropics, and then interestingly, it becomes this echo chamber across the web where people just repeat what other people say. One of the things, aside from the 8 things that I'm going to point out, that is that's never been proven anywhere. That's in literally no papers on the planet. But that has been perpetuated through the nootropics community, is that adrafinil is hard on your liver, or that somehow you're going to raise liver enzymes. Plenty of us, including me, but otherwise biohackers, have gotten liver enzymes tested while heavy adrafinil use, and they're basically the same. So that's just like one thing where it's like the rhetoric that's out there can absolutely steer you wrong. So I'm going to get into some of these things, and just so that you guys like actually have a source for this that you can look at whenever you want to. I'm going to put it on the screen for you guys to look at. So let me just find that screenshot. All right, here it is. Okay. Yeah, it kind of cut some of it off, but I'll read the stuff to you. Number 1 thing wrong with nootropics rhetoric is bioavailable is always better. Bioavailable is always better. You know, I recently talked about it, like one of my latest favorite stacks, and somebody commented, you know, I'm surprised you're not using alpha GPC or CDP choline in that stack because I was using choline bitartrate. Well, that person's perspective comes from the notion that bioavailable is always better, and that's just not true. Bioavailability, like higher bioavailability nootropic compounds, absorb a lot quicker, and they trigger cascades of stuff in the brain faster. And if you're not nuanced and careful about what cofactors you may need to have in a stack with that compounds that are super bioavailable, they can easily cause side effects. Like it's almost like it's harder to pinpoint and make it perfect, right? Because they're a little volatile. And that seems like a good thing, and sometimes it is, but it isn't always a good thing. Good examples are like my stack. Like I have a great stack of bromantane, choline bitartrate, coliracetam, B complex, and fish oil, lecithin. And I've tested that stack, and I've tried to use citicholine with that stack. And though I can get it pretty close, I can't get it as good as that stack. The choline bitartrate is better in that stack. Armodafinil versus modafinil. I've got clients that will bring in armodafinil just for the hell of it, or they had been previously taking armodafinil and they like it. But in what we're doing, or generally, it gives them anxiety, or it disrupts their sleep more than the equivalent dose of modafinil. right? Bioavailability and the more bioavailable compounds, not always better. Triacetyluridine is another great example of that. Look, working with somebody, I can get the dose right on triacetyluridine and people have a great experience, but not everyone works with me. And sometimes, though, just straight uridine is better. Like, you know your doses. That's the case with me with, well, uridine and modafinil versus all the other analogs. I know my dose. Tried and true works. I know when to take it. I know not to take it after a certain point because it'll disrupt my sleep. I just know everything about it, and I don't feel like changing that. Bioavailable compounds are not always better, okay? Number 2. Higher the doses equals better effects. This is one thing that's wrong with nootropics rhetoric. Not true. Lots of people get incredible brain function when they leave that rhetoric alone and delete it. Like, you have to delete stuff from your brain and start taking racetams as an example at lower doses. Like, I know people that 300-400 milligrams of a given racetam, usually aniracetam or oxiracetam, is substantially better than like a gram of either of those. It's just that the way that their brain is releasing acetylcholine in response to it is, again, it comes down to this control factor, harder to control with higher doses. And then they may have some other things going on, like anxiety, baseline anxiety issues that, like the aniracetam as an example, makes worse. And it's just harder to control. Again, all controllable, but harder to control. Higher the doses does not mean better effects. Not at all. I can tell you that much. That's number 2. This is number 3, but really it should be 2.5. The standard recommended doses are definitely not necessarily applicable to you. Okay, so the standard recommended doses of nootropics that you see on Reddit or the web are not necessarily applicable to you. Sort of like, that's why it's 2.5 in that previous example. Like, people respond better to lower doses of racetam. Some people respond better to 50 milligrams of modafinil stacked intelligently with some other things than just throwing down 200 milligrams of modafinil or 150 milligrams of modafinil. A gram of oxiracetam is not always the best for people. 500 milligrams of alpha GPC is certainly not always the best for people. 40 milligrams fasciracetam, but these are sort of some of the recommended doses that are out there. Not always best for people. It's just sort of rhetoric that has been perpetuated that largely is untrue. Number 4, if you find a good stack, stick with it. That's a rhetoric that is wrong, and that gets people into trouble when they don't cycle. Nootropics, people think nootropics are like Adderall or caffeine, and that you just like, you take your medicine for the day, or you take your stack for the day, it provokes the effect, it wears off, tomorrow everything's the same, nothing to worry about. And that is the case with coffee. I mean, you might get a little bit of desensitization of the caffeine response with coffee, but I mean, if you never cycle off of coffee, it's still gonna wake you up in the morning. Nootropics are absolutely not like that. I mean, you can desensitize your response to a stack in 4 days, sometimes sooner than that. So the rhetoric that if you find a good stack, stick with it and just take it and forget about everything else is absolutely wrong rhetoric. Number 5, this is an important one. I'm doing everything right and the stack doesn't work. Okay, I'm doing everything right and the stack doesn't work. Well, again, breaking down what is right to you, right? If you're following typical nootropics rhetoric, then you might be taking standard recommended doses, and those doses are too high for you. If your brain like requires like a B complex or some krill oil to sort of balance out, maybe even some L-theanine to balance out a stack that you're taking that you think is right, then you may need to bring that in. Nootropics are a lot more nuanced, and you have to look at these things. Stacks rarely like not work or work. Okay, stacks don't just inherently really do anything. I mean, they should do something, but not exactly what you want. You've got to be more nuanced about making stacks work. That's almost the basis of what we talk about most of the time. Making your stack actually work well by intelligently stacking other things with it, finding the right doses, recording the experimentation, doing the adjustments, and then ultimately ending up on a perfected stack. Number 6 is a good one, and that is all of the usual suspects thrown together in one stack at large doses is best. absolutely untrue. And a good example of that is Qualiamind. I mean, there are other supplements that are like that, but Qualiamind is a compound where literally they took all the usual suspects, they put them in high doses, and they put them together. I mean, I think there's like 2 choline sources in there. It's redundant. It's ridiculous. The doses are entirely too high. People may get like, some good brain performance in the beginning, but once the brain catches on to the quantity of cholinergics, as just one example in that stack, it's going to start fussing with your response. People that are somewhat new to nootropics will often buy everything, right? Tyrosine, the choline sources, some racetams, modafinil, like put them all together, or put some of the known suspects all together in like high dose and be like, this is how you do it. Definitely not. If there's one theme that is across all of these principles or elements of nootropic rhetoric that are false, it is that you've got to be nuanced in formulating your stacks. Number 7, and this might make people sad, nootropics are inherently healthy. Nootropics are inherently healthy. That's wrong and untrue. Too many doses of cholinergics can inhibit adrenal function. Serotonergics taken unintelligently in excessive quantities can inhibit dopamine firing and even cause PSSD type conditions. And you can downregulate receptors of all types with nootropics when taken too consistently. So nootropics themselves, really not inherently healthy, right? It comes back to how you're using them. And you can do, I wouldn't use the word damage, but you can do some unpleasant things that would be longer term that you would have to go in reverse if you're not using nootropics carefully. And the final element of nootropics rhetoric that really, really used to get under my skin as we launched the Cortex stack, and I would be in forums and where people would either talk about it or review other pre-made stacks, is pre-made stacks are not worth it. That is number 8. In rhetoric, that is totally wrong. Do I have that? Yeah, number 8. Well, pre-made stacks are not worth it. That's number 8. I'll keep this on here so you guys can go look through, for your own records. Pre-made stacks, like the argument is, well, I could just make that stack and I'll save money. Okay, yeah, you could. First, though, some stacks are proprietary for good reason. Like, people got on my case about the beginning. Cortex was proprietary, but in a previous business, I actually had people steal elements of my company, and it hurt our business. So, I became really, really careful about that sort of stuff. There's a lot of armchairs that hit me up at the beginning. Oh, it's proprietary. It's one of these blends. How do you know it works? Like I'm some sort of scammer or something. It's ridiculous. Guy who's obviously never been in business. But also, pre-made stacks are the most convenient way. Like, if you find a pre-made stack that you respond to, that you just sort of cycle between, to not be using powder and doing the whole, rigmarole of weighing stuff out and capsuling it, which can become a pain in the ass. I mean, if you've got stacks that you need to take, that you respond really well to, obviously that's worth it. I'm weighing out stacks pretty much, for 4 days a week, 5 days a week sometimes. But having pre-made stacks that you respond really well to around for the convenience and when you travel is totally worth it. Forget about the money. Think about convenience. When I go on vacation, I bring Cortex, I bring Alpha Brain because I respond well to that if I don't take it a whole lot. I bring Siltep, I can stack that with Cortex and I respond to it really well. I mean, it's very, very convenient. If you find a pre-made stack or several pre-made stacks that you respond well to, it's good to have them around because you don't have to weigh anything out, man. You just sort of know exactly what to expect. Like, you have this speech you're going to give and you have a pre-made stack that induces verbal fluency pretty much on cue and you know it. Like, what are you going to do? Weigh nootropics out in the back or having pre-weighed them out before when you're trying to get your speech ready at home? Have a pre-made stack on you. They are not always not worth it. That's just part of the nootropics rhetoric. Why do I say all these things? Because, look, people going into nootropics will see all that rhetoric, and then they see this sort of seemingly formidable industry or dynamic of nootropics and the rhetoric that goes along with it, and it's so socially superior and powerful that people just accept what other people say, and that is wrong. It gets people into trouble. It gets people side effects. It prevents them from actually getting the responses that they could get. And most importantly, it prevents them from this notion of nuance when formulating, adjusting, and making stacks that work well for you. Hope that makes sense, guys. I'll flash it right in front of the screen again. Bioavailable is always better, not true. Higher the doses equal better the effects, not true. Standard recommended doses are not applicable to, or are applicable to everybody, not true. If you find a good stack, stick with it, not true. You got to cycle. I'm doing everything right. Stack doesn't work. Untrue. Stacks don't work or not work. Again, it's about nuance. All the usual suspects thrown together in one large stack are good. Definitely not true. Nootropics are inherently healthy. I mean, they're not going to damage your liver or anything unless you're, just taking triple doses every day, and then you might run into some elevated liver enzymes. But you can induce PSSD-like conditions with serotonergics. Cholinergics can fuss with it if they're taking wrong adrenal function, and you can absolutely downregulate receptors of all types when too consistently using certain nootropics. And number 8, pre-made stacks are not worth it. Totally not true. In fact, for the bulk of, I have a vacation coming up, I'll be bringing pre-made stacks, like in bottles. First of all, it's easy to get through the TSA like that than having powders. And secondly, it's convenient. I know which pre-made stacks will work for me for what I want to do, and that's just what I'm going to do. Thanks so much for watching. Hope that made sense. Appreciate you guys being with me. Remember, Fueled by Nootropics t-shirts. They will be here in our hands at the office on Friday. We have 100 medium and 100 large of Fueled by Nootropics. Sick Nootropics t-shirts. They're retailing at $24.99. Incredibly good black material and like popping yellow on the nootropics in the pill. It's just sick. Wear it and rep it to people. Wear it, to the gas station or your family gatherings or whatever, just repping what it is you're into. Because a lot of folks that are regular folks or folks that are, whoever, don't know about nootropics, and they probably should, but you do. That's because you're advanced. Check out the Cortex Labs gaming channel on YouTube. It's Cortex Labs is one word and then space gaming. All modern warfare content all day. And then go to livecortex.com and support us. This broadcast is brought to you by our pre-made stack, the Cortex Nootropics stack. Been around for 6 years now, ships to 38 countries. It's just a very well put together nootropic stack, and you can find that at livecortex.com. If you're new to nootropics, Nootropics Ground Zero. If you're a couple years in but want to get better, Nootropics Masterclass. And if you need my help on large scale at helping you perform exceptionally better using nootropics, fixing energy issues, bumping up your productivity substantially, either get the 3.5-month intensive or the 6-month intensive and work with me for those time periods. The kind of stuff that we get done, it's insane. You should be talking to my clients. We've got reviews and stuff on the website, but people are like, it changed my life. 6-year users of nootropics that still haven't been able to get stack straight because there's certain methodology that's not infused into their thinking. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Look out for the t-shirts. Take heed to what I said. We'll talk to you next time.